Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to take this from Maya to Mari and back again. I'll do something super simple, and I'm going to light it up in Arnold and in Redshift at the same time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to remember that if I want to move these around, I move my little UDIM units, like each one of these is a separate piece. Okay, and all I did was I selected their UVs, and here there's in transform 1 is on, and if I just hit my oh, I got soft selection on, that's why everything's yellow. And if I just hit my move arrows here, I can go and move my my UDIM around. Okay, and that's good. So let's just take these, and I'm gonna go File, Export Selection, and we'll just say Head Mari Demo. Okay, great. And you wanna, yeah, sure, why not? Oh, and I don't have Mari open yet. I'm just gonna pause while Mari opens up. Come on. Oh, where did my cursor go? Over here. There. Okay, now it's opened up. And I'm going to go in here, and I guess I got one from previous, but whatever. I'll start it afresh. And I'm going to go here to Path, and I'm going to pick out my piece of geometry. And who the hell am I? Where did I put that thing? G drive. And here's there. And Head Mari Demo. Open. Boom. Okay, create new project. I don't need to worry about any of these other things. They are going to create these channels for me here. There's color settings. When you get advanced, you can use those. But right now, all we need to do is worry about that and hit create new project. And it does some thinking. Okay, it's taking its sweet time. I'll just pause. Okay, I just resized it too. And now we got it here, and I'll just close these all down. There, good. And if I look here, I could go to my ortho UV, and there's all the geometry I brought in. And you can see the UDIMs. This is kind of your base spot right here. Why do I know that that's the middle? It looks like it just slightly darker or something. I could tell it's the middle. And then I leave this 0 to 1 space open, and then over here I've placed in my other UVs side to side to side. Okay, and if I hit F, there, it frames it all. Remember, if you're trying to do things as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it shows you your different angles. Oh crap. And as I'm working here, I just painted across there. I can hit Control Z. That undoes your camera movements too. And as I was moving, I guess I painted, and I have in the painting settings, I have auto bake and clear. I usually use clear only or auto bake and clear, depending upon what I'm doing. When I'm painting masks, I like auto bake and clear. When I'm doing painting and I kind of want to stretch the paint around, I usually have on the other one. If I hold down, was it Control Shift C, that clears it. Okay. Clears it out if I paint and I don't want to pop it down on the surface. And what I'm going to do is we just check out our channels. Okay, we've got all of our channels. These are your different textures you're going to make. We're only going to make base color and bump. And then if I go here to shaders, we're on principled BRDF. That's kind of a nice default one to use. And you can see here, actually I'm going to put this on, put the tack on. So when I come in here and I hit it, shaders, it'll pop up here and it'll stay. So a little tack button right there. And you can see there's base color, specular roughness, and bump is plugged in. And later on I'm going to go down here to the bump weight and adjust that. And that should be good for what we're doing. Again, when you get advanced, you'll want to change those things, probably. I'm just going to open up the image manager, and I've got some pictures over here on the side. I'm just going to drag in one. Nothing special. Something like this. I kind of like this one. It's nice and corrosion. Okay, great. And let's just move this over a little bit. And so what I want to do is just kind of quickly put some corrosion all over this thing. And if I go to the layers, move this over a little bit. I'm going to go here and I'll throw on a fresh layer. Actually, I don't need to put on a fresh layer. Sorry. Smoky crack. There. I will go in here to the base. If I go, there's a few different buttons here. This gives you adjustment layers if you want. We're going to do those later. The one next to it, this will give me different types of kind of noise and other things I can do, like projecting images on the procedural noise patterns. Typically, they're kind of noisy things. There's where you can create your ambient occlusion, all this. Okay, but we're going to go to projection, and I'm going to put on the triplanar projection. And when I have it selected, if I have base layer selected, I don't see anything. When I hit this triplanar projection, I see it here. Just going to click and drag this in here. Boop. Go down a bit further. Bloop. I'm just dragging and dropping from the image manager. I don't need to see all this extra image information. It isn't important to me. And here. And now we can see that that image is tiling across there quite a bit. And I could go in and adjust each one of those really easily, but I'm just going to go up here to world scale. And I'm going to guess 30. And that's pretty close. No, it's not 30. It's going to be maybe 50. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There. Okay, so I can see a bunch of like kind of scratches and all that stuff here. Great. Now, if I want to see this as a well, actually, let's put another layer on here. Instead of doing another triplanar, let's just do something a little bit different. I'm just going to put a basic color. So I go to basic color. There it is. I'm going to have white covering the whole thing. Okay, it's taking its time thinking about this. I'm going to pick out a different color than white. And since that's kind of ready, let's go and pick something kind of bluey, greeny. Oh yeah, like that. That screams to me. Oh, it's still freaking white. Let's go over here and try that again. Sure, that looks great. I'm just looking for contrast. Okay, so now that I've got that on there, what I can do, I got to color over the whole thing. Like I could have painted that color on all of over my Udums on a new layer, but it's just, I don't know, a little bit faster, depending on how many pieces you've got, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then what I might do is I want to reveal some of that corrosion here. We can get rid of that. And so if I right click on this, I can add a layer mask, and I'll hit reveal all. Okay, you can hide all or reveal all. And you can do the same thing. Which one is it? Is it this one? This one here. Add mask stack. And there's add layer mask. Okay, and you can make layers of masks, which is super, super cool. Okay, anyway, back to this. So now I've got this on, and this color here, that's selecting just the color, so I can change that. If I go over here, that selects the mask, and I can start painting my mask. I'm just going to go and hit my... actually, is this... everything's in. Okay, good. I'm just going to hit this, and basically this goes between black and white. The paintbrush is right here. Flip back and forth. That's also if you hit X, it does that, right? So if I paint on here, I see nothing. When I hit X, it flips the colors, and it starts to reveal stuff. Okay, so I can start to paint out areas I want to be corroded. And actually, when I'm doing paint masks, I like the auto bake and clear, because whenever you rotate, it automatically bakes it down, and you can kind of work it. And, if I went over here and I decided I want to do some work here, right, and I move it, it's automatically baked. And if I don't like what I've done, I just hit X and I can paint it away. Okay, X brings it back. And I could probably even, something else that might look cool is if I go and I change brushes. So go over here to the shelf, and let's close this down. And my favorite is the Octo Skin. I don't know if it's because I like saying Octo Skin. I think that's going to be the name of my next dog. Maybe I'll get more. Anyway, I kind of get this nice kind of image in here. Great. And then if I hit X, I can go and get rid of it too. And I can make something interesting. Okay. Now, enough of this. The next stage that's interesting is... and this is the tricky bit. If I go in here, I'm on my base color. I'm I'm going to break this off, and this breaks off the layers. And I freaking hate the auto docking, but I have to hit the little pin right here to leave this hanging up here. Okay, let's just bring this down a bit so you can see what I'm about to do. And then I'm going to switch to my bump. I want to paint my bump. And remember, you can paint your bump any way you want to. And so right now, if I'm painting my bump, if I look in the layers, and actually let's just hide the channels. There's my base layer. I've got nothing there. I could go in here and make a new layer. And as I'm painting my bump, come on, just a little bit faster. Okay, I could come onto the surface here and paint bump action. You see it picking up. And then if I flip to X, this is going to recede. Okay, so you can paint your bump in real time and all that stuff and whatever. Let's just get rid of this thing. Remember, you can hit the eyeball and you can hide it, or you can just select it and delete the layer. Let's get the little artistic pad on it. But what I want to do is I want to take from the hair, or from the color, I want to take this triplanar, and I'm going to hold down Control-Shift, and I can drag that over. Actually, it looks like I got them both at the same time. Okay, whatever. And it's taking its sweet time. And actually, let's just hide the shared color for a second, because we're going to see what this corrosion is doing. This corrosion. What the hell? This corrosion. Album called This Mortal Coil. That's what that is. Okay. Anyway, you can kind of see a little bit of bump action all over the surface right now from this thing. If I go into the shaders, I can turn up my bump. Usually if you go beyond 1, it's going to look really weird, but you can totally see my bump action happening here. Okay. And if I'm painting, let's go back to the shared color. So these two things are sharing across here. I'm going to get rid of this now. And oh, look at that bumpy stuff. And that's also being affected by your reflective area, or your specular layer, but I'm trying to skip over that for now. Anyway, if I select this, I can start painting my mask, and whoop, I can paint my bump mask at the same time. And then I can go and hit X and I can remove it. It kind of makes more sense if it's down in little corners and nooks and crannies where this information would pick up. Anyway, I could spend a lot of time doing this. And again, I could change my brush. You can bring in anything you could think of. If you want to adjust your brush, don't forget that you can go down here to Tool Properties. And we got too much stuff up here. And you could adjust things on your brush, and then you come down here and play with it and see what it looks like as you're doing things to it. Okay, so there's a ton of crap you can do. And I'll do something like this. I hit X and I can remove it. Okay, now, you know what? I don't like the green. I'm just going to go back here to channels, flip to my color base, and I'm going to go into the layers, and let's get rid of the channels for a second while I go to the layers, go to color, change that green, and what do I think of this? This is a nice thing. You can make changes really quickly in real time, and you go, I kind of like it when it's just a bit bluer, maybe a bit darker. Okay, great. And what else am I skipping over? I'm skipping over a few things. Color, triplanar. Oh, maybe one more thing over here. When I'm in the channels, if I flip to my bump when I'm exporting it, I can... you'll notice that when I'm exporting it, that it's going to come out as a color map. If I check it over here on the side, that's when I can change to my flat shader. If you want to see what it just looks like as texture, there's flat, full. If I go to this one, I can see the current channel I'm on, so I'm on the bump, and we're going to see its color. We probably want to change that. If I take this and I put a new layer on top of this, or not a layer, if I put an adjustment, dook. If I put this on, I'll put on luminosity there, so it goes on top, and that will take all the color information out. So we're seeing just a black and white map. If I'm not happy with this being dark and light, I can use other types as well, right? There's a few other things like invert, flips it around, makes the white black and the black white. Anyway, we're good. What I'm going to do, let's go back to channels. I'm going to select the base color. I want to take this back to Maya. What time are we at? 15-minute mark. Okay, I was hoping to do it in 20 minutes. I'm close. Then, if I take this and I go into my layers, and let's get rid of the channels, layers, and I right click on this, I can export flattened, export all layers flattened. And right here we've got it set up so there's a money sign channel and money sign UDIM. So that's going to remember the location of this in these different UDIM places that I have. Okay, so it'll remember all of these different coordinate systems inside the UV editor for each one of these textures. Let's try it again. Export flattened. And I'm just going to go in here and say Cylon. Okay, whatever. And this is going to go into my users, Bob, Cylon Basement. Let's make this someplace else. I'm going to put it back in here with this, okay, Cylon project. And I'll throw it in the source image folder. Here, it should be fine. And you can have TIFF files, PSDs. I'd probably recommend sticking with a TIFF here. Yeah, for basic, simple stuff. Let's export all these patches and see what happens. Bloop. Okay, and I'm going to, let's see, how's this doing? It's rolling it out. This is telling me where it's doing. It's right down in the corner. It says baking them all. Done. So let's go back to Maya. And in Maya, let's just take this and assign a favorite material. I'm going to put on the AI standard for this one. And bloop. Let's just take this, and in the attribute editor, why did that come out so big? I'm going to go in here to the color section of this, and I'm going to pop on a file texture, and I'm going to go browsing, and there is my Cylon base color. And I just got to take there, that one, and I'll hit open. And we'll wait for a second. And I got that stupid swatch. What was I thinking? Actually, that swatch drives me freaking batty. If I go in here to preferences and I go to display, why am I on 2K? Must have been, I haven't been paying attention, and I updated recently and maybe that did it there. If I just click on it, it'll refresh it. And if I hit 6, okay, there it is. But this is the same texture going across all four of them. If you look right here where it says UV tiling, there's an option here to go to Udimari. And you hit generate preview, and it thinks, and it does it. And so we've got our color on, and if we want to hook up our bump, okay, we're on the AI standard surface, okay. If we look down here in the geometry section, this is where our bump mapping is. And I'll just go back here to, who am I, what am I doing? Okay, here I'm back in Mari, and if I go into channels and I switch to the bump, and then I turn on my channels here and I go back here, there's this, and I can just go into export flattened, and it's got my Cylon channel UDIM. Okay, great. By the way, I can do these all at once too, but I'm trying to break it up a little bit, because if you're just learning this, it makes it simpler. Okay, let's go back to Maya. And if I take a look here, bump mapping, I'm going to hit this, and I go zipping in, and we want a file texture. And the file texture has a bump 2D node with it, and it's set at 1. And we follow here the bump value, that's where our texture is. There's the image name. And I'll go browsing, and there's my Cylon bump. There's the coordinate system. Okay, and then it's loading it in automatically because I changed that preference, and I'll switch this to UDIMs and hit generate preview. And, oh, that looks really nice. Okay, good. Okay, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Well, let's just find out what happens when we render. I'll just go in here to lights, and I'll throw in a sky dome light. And I'll go to Arnold, and I'm going to go into render. Did I hit that too fast? It's opening up the render. It's thinking about it. Or am I crazy? Okay, there we go. Okay, a little bit on the specular shiny side, a bit too much. I'm trying to remember what is... I can see a little bit of spec action happening here, but it's not what I was quite expecting. I go back to the AI standard surface. When I go to the bump mapping and I follow this through, there's this thing. Maybe I have to go in and switch this to raw on the bump. Sometimes you'll have to switch between sRGB and raw to change the color a little bit. And it's more stuff I don't want to talk about just yet. Time we at 20-minute mark. Okay, great. And you could crank it up a bit more if you had to. I don't want to do this, but that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so you can see bump action, and you can see the color obviously there. I'm just gonna, everything's slowing down. So I'm recording at the same time I'm rendering. Okay, and let's just go back over here, and anything else that could be interesting to do. If I went into, say, the specular and I brought some of this weight down. Okay, how about base? Open that up. And my metalness is way down, so what is it that's giving me the problem? Okay, bring this down a little bit, and if I bring up my roughness a little bit on my specular, okay, there we go. So, I'll just give that a moment. Okay, we'll call that good enough. And I'll just pause right here while it kind of sets that in, and I'm going to do the same thing in Redshift. And so I'm just going to stop this render right here. We'll say it's good. So let's do the same thing. Now I'm just going to switch over here, and right now I'm probably in render settings. It's in Arnold. I'm going to switch to Redshift, and let's see. Let's go over and take this whole thing. Whoop. And I'm gonna right click and I'll assign a new material, and and I've got Redshift here, shader, and I go to Redshift material. Now Redshift has, what the hell's that? Redshift has the diffuse instead of it has, yeah, diffuse and then color right here. Just a little bit different than how Arnold has things set up. They're similar though. I'm just going to open up the hypershade. In the hypershade, whoop, I'm trying to move this over without anything freaking out. Okay, great. If I go into the textures, I can see there is the texture that I already have, and you can see some of this crap that I was modeling with over here. And I could just take this. This is the color. I can actually middle click, drag it, and pop it onto my color. Okay, and we're just going to check out how that's going to render. Okay. Okay, come on. Don't crash on me now. We're getting 23-minute mark. Okay, great. And let's just go into Redshift. And Redshift, if I go in and I hit a Redshift render, there we go, Redshift, nice and speedy. I can put on the IPR so we can do interactive rendering. Okay, and I could also pop on, say, with lights, I could put on our Redshift dome light. So it looks similar to what you're getting in Arnold. And okay, so that's not looking too bad. And then I'll go back, and here I'm just going to see if I can select the object. And there's my RS Redshift material. The reflection is pretty hot again. And again, you got similar things. Reflection, you got weight. Okay. Sometimes this gets me all confused as to which package I'm in. If I turn up the roughness, that'll kind of blur a bit of the reflection. Okay, so it kind of makes it a bit more potentially interesting. And then if I go down here for Arnold or for Redshift, I'm looking for overall. And this is where I'll find the bump map here. And I can do the same thing. I can go to bump map, middle click, drag, bloop. There's my bump map is in. Now, in Redshift, they create an extra node. What I'll do is I'm just going to select, let's see, if I go and I select my piece of geometry, I did that without going and moving all the windows, and I hit this little button here. This will go in and graph the materials on selected objects, and this one's showing me the whole thing of what's going on in Redshift. If I hit 1, 2, and 3, it'll kind of, there's showing me everything. 1 kind of makes it into a simple node. 2 shows you what's connected, so it's easier to look at. And you can see there's that Redshift bump node, similar to what you saw in Arnold. This one though, let's put the Redshift on. We can't see anything. It's because this height is sitting at a very low value. So let's crank it up a little bit and see what happens. Put it around 1. And now you can see that bump is coming through. Anything else I want to say about this? I want to kind of leave it at that. Sometimes you got to check the raw. And yeah, there it is. Move this around, we got kind of the same thing. There is maybe one thing that might be kind of different between the two renders, and if I pull this one over here and I pull this one over here, there's something about this that looks prettier. And what that is the fact that by default Arnold has global illumination on. Okay, so it's doing something a little bit different, so there's a bit of a powdery quality to it. If I go into the render settings on Redshift, if I go into the GI, right now the GI there's none, but if I turn on a Radiance Cache and maybe Brute Force, I start to get something very similar. Okay, and now it's coming in and they kind of look similar. And that's it. That's putting the two in. There's one in Arnold, one in Redshift from Mari in 25 minutes. Okay, I'm going to stop here.